What's happening in this country, nothing is scarier than what's unfolding in the schools. They want to separate kids from their parents. And they're doing that through indoctrination starting as young as 6. Just this week, a crazy Democrat in Virginia said she wants to charge parents with child abuse if they don't affirm their kid's gender identity. So basically, if 9-year-old Jack goes through a phase, tells his teacher, "Miss Dugan, I'm a girl." And Mrs. Dugan says, "You can be whatever you want to be, Jack. If you want to be a girl, that's fine." And Jack goes home and tells his parents, says, "Mommy, Daddy, I'm a girl now." Mrs. Dugan said, "I could be a girl if I want to. And I want to be Jill. Jill's my name now." And then the parent calls Miss Dugan and says, "What the heck is going on? Did you say my son Jack is now Jill?" Now, Miss Dugan can come back and say, "You're not affirming your own child's gender identity. Jack is Jill, and I'm calling 911. Could you imagine police showing up to the parents' house and putting them in handcuffs for child abuse for something like this? Well, Elizabeth Guzman wants that. She's a member of the Virginia House of Delegates, and she's drafting a bill to be voted on next session to make it a crime if parents don't acknowledge when their son or daughter changes their gender. What's happening in schools is that teachers are encouraging boys to become girls and girls to become boys. And teachers are calling your son or daughter by a different pronoun, and they're hiding it from the parents. Now, Governor Glenn Youngkin is fighting against this kind of stuff in Virginia. He introduced new school guidelines that prevent teachers from keeping this information from parents. But Guzman didn't like that, and her response was to silence parents. Why? Because she wants LGBTQ kids to know that they're loved. Now, I don't know about you. What's happening here doesn't sound like love. It sounds like these teachers should mind their own business. Here's a father of 2 girls who travels the country to protest this so-called love, and he raises this point.
Our kids are being led to believe that they're born in the wrong body. They're being taught in their schools that they're born in the wrong body. What does that mean? Can any of you tell me? I know you can't, because I've asked this question thousands of times, and no one can answer it, because it doesn't mean anything. What it is an abusive statement. Imagine telling a child that they're born in the wrong body and calling that love and affirmation, and then telling them that the way to find their true self is to block puberty, go on the other sex's hormones, and cut off their breasts.
He's right. Are these people teaching kids to love themselves, or are they teaching them to change themselves? Parents across the nation are fed up. And no, it's not just the conservative white dads who are speaking out, even though that's what the media wants you to think. It's all parents.
Where's the math? Where is the reading? Where is the history? Where are the strong values?
We want kids to have access to these books. It's nice and simple.
That was video from a school board meeting in Dearborn, Michigan. These parents don't want their kids reading books about transsexuals. This is a Muslim community. This community feels the exact same way about this stuff than Black, white, and Hispanic communities feel. And it's not just what's being taught in the classroom, it's also what's happening in the classroom. And maybe those two things are connected. A mom in California was forced to confront her daughter's school board after she was exposed to another boy being inappropriate during class.
On May 17th, my 7th grade daughter, along with every other classmate, watched a boy in her class masturbate. I only know this because my daughter told me in the car when I picked her up, saying her friends said they were disturbed, traumatized, and scared. It does not take an expert to figure out what happens to a 13-year-old boy when he's staring at mostly naked girls wearing underwear to school and being exposed to concepts like oral and anal sex in 7th grade.
It's pretty disgusting. And how did the superintendent handle it? Watch this.
When we talk about masturbation, could be rubbing of their jeans with their hand outside of their pants. Doesn't necessarily need to be inside. As someone who's been an elementary and middle school principal, I would say that at least once a year this comes up from both males and females within a school setting, and so I don't think that this is anything outside the norm that would take place.
You hear that? Totally normal for students to masturbate in class. No big deal. It's also totally normal for a biological boy to spike a volleyball into a girl's face during a high school girls' volleyball game. This girl reportedly suffered head and neck injuries because this guy jumped 10 feet in the air, all muscle, and spiked the ball 600 miles an hour into her head. The guy looks like he should be on the U.S. men's Olympic volleyball team, but he's spiking balls into your poor little girl's face. What do they call this? They call that inclusion. The rest of the country calls that insanity. This is what happens when boys become girls and they play in girls' sports. Wait till Jack becomes Jill, goes out for your daughter's softball team, and crushes a line drive into her skull. This radical gender movement's hurting kids mentally, emotionally, academically, and now physically. And if a parent says anything about that, they're a bigot. The government has allowed this. In fact, the government is pushing this. The government is a stronghold on our kids, and it's time for us to take this power back. We need more parents to speak up, like my next guest. Here's her response when she found out what kind of book was in her 7th grader's classroom. Watch.
I'm going to read from Chapter 9, The Ins and Outs of Gay Sex, starting at page 201, Part 1, Boy on Boy Sex. Perhaps the most important skill you will master as a gay or bi man is a timeless classic. Good news is you can practice it on yourself. Any teacher that puts material like this on his or her bookshelf is either a bad teacher or a pedophile who grooms children.
Your 2 minutes are up. Thank you.
We will vote you out November 8th. You are not leaders.
I'm not on.
Christy Wade and Brooke Weiss are parents with the group Moms for Liberty. So, Christy, what did this school board say when you read that graphic material from a book that was in the class?
Well, they actually didn't say anything. In fact, the chair chimed in saying that she wasn't even on the ballot for this election, which is essentially shirking all accountability for their actions. And they just don't care, quite honestly. And that was evident by the fact that they didn't even give me my full 2 minutes to speak because I had the common courtesy to allow the parents who had children in the room to remove them. But they didn't care because they just let the 2 minutes run, and I was shortchanged.
Brooke, what's your experience with this school board and these school boards in general? We're seeing the video footage prove that no matter how angry and upset the parents are, they just sit back like this and they say next and they gavel the meeting over.
I've been speaking at Charlotte-Mecklenburg school board meetings since April of 2021. Basically, only 2 of the 9 current school board members have ever really engaged with me. Occasionally, I get an email from another one, but there's virtually no response from 7 out of the 9 school board members ever about anything.
Is there any movement in the right direction here? Do they change any sort of policies? Do they acknowledge that what's going on is inappropriate and against what the rest of the school and parent body agree with?
No, there's been no change in policy. When we brought the book that Christy read the excerpts from to their attention, there was a pretty swift decision to remove the book from the classroom. They said that it was not approved curriculum, but as soon as that happened, we found out that it was actually on a recommended reading list at a different middle school for the same grade, 7th graders. Okay. So it may not be part of...
Yeah, and Christy, we actually played more of a tame version from what you recited from that book. We can't even play it on television. It's that graphic. Go ahead.
Exactly. And my whole point, too, that I didn't actually get to say because I was shortchanged on my time, is that I can't say that stuff in a workplace. As an adult, I'm not allowed to bring in porn into my job. So why is it appropriate for that to be in schools and discussing it with children? It's just counterintuitive and it's ridiculous.
It totally is. And we have a lot of respect for both of you guys for standing up to this madness, because it is. And it looks like a lot of people have your back. thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Jesse.